Danny Queen, and welcome to another exciting edition of Color Me Poetry. And I'd like to welcome my guest, Brother Tim Wells. Tim is a poet of the highest order, and Brother's been kicking in poetry for a long time. He's very much into what he's doing, and he's a master poet, I must say. Welcome, Tim.
How you doing today, Danny?
Brother, tell us a little bit about yourself and your writing and how you got started. Why poetry? Why not some other art form?
Well, first of all, my name, my parents named me Tim Wells, but my hip-hop name is Four. And the name derives from, I'm the fourth child in my family, born September 4th. You have the four elements of nature: earth, wind, fire, water. You have the four corners of the earth. You have four seasons: spring, summer, winter, fall. What you waiting for, what you fighting for, what you living for. And to Native American cultures and also African cultures, the number 4 is very significant. So I've taken that on as my hip-hop name. And basically, one of the things that I've read that really inspired me in my writing was Malcolm X's statement, "Culture is an indispensable weapon in the freedom struggle." When I read that, something snapped. I realized how valuable it was for me to write poetry that had a message to it.
Yes.
So that's basically where I got my
So
inspiration.
would you consider yourself a straight up poet or hip hop poet, or what would you consider your type of poetry?
I mean, I'm definitely part of the hip hop generation and part of the hip hop movement, but at the same time, I have to give a lot of respect and credit to poets who came before me, like Etheridge Knight, Gil Scott-Heron, the last poets, Langston Hughes, on and on and on. I mean, I really shouldn't even start naming because I don't want to leave anybody out. But I have to give credit to even the Garvey movement, which had a lot of poetry, and that also inspired me greatly because the Garvey movement and the Harlem Renaissance was going on at the same time.
Right.
And a lot of people don't realize the cultural expression that came out of the Harlem Renaissance was largely because of the Garvey movement too.
Yeah, that's true. Because Garvey was happening then, and Marcus Garvey had the largest following of black people of anybody ever had in this country. I think some between 14 and 20 million followers.
Definitely.
Worldwide probably more than that. But that's good to have that kind of inspiration. What better base to start from than the Honorable Marcus Garvey himself? Your book is called?
My book is called Something Funny About America That Ain't Funny. And right now I'm working on some studio stuff too. I want to have an album called We Are Not a Lost Generation, because I'm tired of the way that a lot of people just write off this generation is being lost. It's like
X generation.
Yeah, X generation, all that stuff. So it's like if your child was lost in the woods, you're not going to just say, oh, forget that child, that's a lost child. You'll send helicopters out, you'll send search dogs out to try to find that child. So in the same way, we have to find programs for our youth rather than just writing them off.
That's very important that you said it. Why you call your book that? Why that title?
Because, I guess a good example, a lot of people are surprised when I say this, is look at a Richard Pryor. When you listen to some of Richard Pryor's comedy, it's a lot of truth in it. It's funny, but then again, it's not so funny. Like when he talks about cops, and he talks about cops will put a hurting on your butt, and people don't believe that, oh, they're just talking trash. That really doesn't happen, I mean, the way that Richard does it, it makes you laugh, but then when you think about it, it's a real serious commentary on the way that America is. And so in the same way in my poetry, I realize that a lot of times I'm talking about some very serious stuff, but for people to digest it and to really understand it, you have to give it to them sarcastically and kind of a funny way. That's why it's something funny about America that ain't funny. And really, that's something funny about the universe, I guess, that ain't so funny.
Yeah, that's true.
Well,
that's real deep, because a lot of things, like you said, that they say, the comedians say, are really based. Now, I ain't talking about some of the vulgar stuff we hear, but I mean some of the deep things that I hear some comedians say, such as Richard Pryor, is really deep stuff. You say, well, I guess what really makes it humorous is that it's based in truth, and people know that it's true.
Right.
And that's what, and it's, the way he does it is, he was a master at what he does. Speaking of poetry, why don't you share something with us from your new book? Something about America that really ain't funny. Okay. Well,
first, I'll share something. Actually, this isn't from my book, but I want to dedicate this first poem to the people of Haiti, because, a lot of times we just think about our own lives and not really about how we're related to other people around the world. And I'll kick it. I know you hate me like you hate Haiti, yeah. I know you hate me like you hate Haiti, yeah. I know you hate me like you hate Haiti, yeah. I know you hate me like you hate Haiti. You insist, and I quote, we need to build more prisons. You incriminate me. You work very hard to incriminate me. You say we inattentive, we inarticulate, we incapable, we inapt. I raised my hand in the 8th grade to ask a question about slavery. You interrupted me. You intervened because you didn't want me to unite with other students that were willing to fight. You incriminate me. You worked very hard to incriminate me. You encouraged me to kill. Then after I killed somebody, you interrogated me. You indicted me. You incarcerated me. You insisted I vote, and I quote, the next 4 years will be better than the last 4 years. You encouraged me to kill in Africa. You in Africa. We never should have let you in Africa.
Wow, wonderful. I like the rhythm. Poetry has to have rhythm,
right?
Doesn't it? You know, some poets, their rhythm is rather different and rather difficult. But by you being a hip hop artist as well, you know, I could feel the rhythm there. And good poetry is always very rhythm. And that's not to say that a poem has to rhyme, but rhythm, it has to have a sense of rhythm. But the same thing with writing songs, right. Songwriting. You have to have a sense of rhythm there, and you can feel it.
Right.
And that makes a difference. Because for our people, you know, we got to have that rhythm and feel the rhythm there.
Right.
In the piece of literature, no matter whether it rhymes or it doesn't rhyme, even if it's a short story or an essay, you have to have a sense of rhythm there. And I see you have a strong sense of rhythm there.
Right.
So that's a really nice piece, man. Great piece, inspired by the Haitian brothers and sisters.
And actually, it's also inspired by, you know, I mentioned when I was in the 8th grade, I remember I wrote an essay about slavery. And it was funny because my teacher wrote a longer essay back to me in red. You know how they used to write in red and tear up your paper? Yeah. And she was like, well, I'm surprised at you, Timothy. I'm surprised at you, you know, and she thought that I was angry because of my feelings about the peculiar institution of slavery. And she actually told me not all slave masters were bad. And
if they were slave masters,
yeah,
they're bad enough for me.
Right. And so, you know, and then also I remember when I was in the 10th grade, a woman came in to talk about AIDS. And, you know, and basically I was telling my class, I was like, well, don't necessarily listen to what she's saying, because a lot of times when there's a disease or an epidemic or a problem, it seems like they always try to blame it on black people or Latino people.
Or
the so-called undesirables. And you know, she was talking to us about the green monkey theory, and I never believed that theory. And then a few years later, now I didn't have all the information in the 10th grade, of course, but a few years later, the man who came up with the theory even said that the theory was not a good theory. So
it wasn't well founded.
Right.
It wasn't founded in Africa at all. Let's say it was founded here in Fort Detrick, Maryland, where they created AIDS. Let's say that.
But that's the hospital, you know.
And I say, like Dr. Francis Cress Wilson said, I say AIDS is biologically created, and I say that it's biological warfare until proven otherwise. And I'm saying it right here and right now. And I really don't care who don't like it. I'm saying that AIDS was created in the laboratory.
Definitely.